I have been a bootlicker for my girlfriend Liu Ruyan for 10 years. When I took her to see her parents who had an accident for the last time, Liu Ruyan ran away. The reason was that the senior had broken his leg and needed his care. He even snatched the keys of my car and left me alone. I looked at his back as he left gracefully, smiled dejectedly and said, "I won't wait for you this time." When I received a call from the hospital, I was having dinner with Liu Ruyan in the restaurant. A cold voice came over and notified me to come and see my parents for the last time. They said they had an accident on the way to the restaurant and were waiting for me with only one breath left. After hanging up the phone, I trembled and pulled Liu Ruyan's hand, but he impatiently shook it off, saying, "Why haven't your parents come yet? Haven't you arranged everything? Let me make it clear first, I don't want to marry and be a slave. Please respect me a little bit." "Liu Ruyan, my parents were in a car accident. They are only breathing. Let's go to the hospital," I said while pulling her out. But the next second my hand was knocked down. Liu Ruyan stood there to answer the phone. Her sweet voice was very harsh. "Okay, senior, be careful, I'll be there soon." The senior is the senior again. My thoughts are in a mess. I hurriedly took the car keys to drive, but the keys were taken away by Liu Ruyan. A Yuan Boda broke his leg. No one is around to take care of him. Lend me the car first. I seemed to have heard a big joke, and the tears in my eyes couldn't help falling out. "Liu Ruyan, my parents are almost dead now, and you tell me now that you are going to drive to find your senior." His face turned pale and then he thought of something, stamped his feet, and then turned his head away. The hospital likes to exaggerate. "But I have seen the photo of Jibo kicking his legs. Can you please stop being jealous?" Not wanting to argue with him anymore, I grabbed the car keys and got in the car. "If Liu Ruyan doesn't go with me today, then from now on we will have no relationship. I have been his licker for 10 years, it's enough." Seeing me like this, he smiled contemptuously, then turned around and walked away. There was no time to think too much. I drove quickly to the hospital, got off the car and quickly ran to the front desk, asked my parents' names and successfully found the ward. I stood in front of the ward, shaking my hands and preparing to open the door, praying to God in my heart not to let them get into trouble. At this time the door was suddenly opened, and the body covered with white cloth was pushed out from inside. In an instant I felt like the sky had fallen. The next moment, I heard someone calling my name in the room. I walked in. My parents were lying on the hospital bed with plaster casts on their arms and legs, but they didn't look like they were in imminent danger. My heart was finally at ease. I rushed forward and my mother wiped the tears from my face and told me not to worry. I grabbed their hands and kept thanking them. Nothing is more important than the safety of my family. My mother still looked very weak, but she still had a hoarse voice and asked me where Liu Ruyan was. She said they wanted to apologize to her. Regarding the lateness, I clenched my fists and smiled. "It's okay, Mom and Dad, she didn't blame you." I originally wanted to say directly that there was no possibility for me and her, but I was afraid that the two elders would feel guilty, so I decided to wait for a while before talking. After everything was settled, I was going to buy food for the two elders in Xiamen, and suddenly a text message and picture sent by Liu Ruyan came to my mobile phone. The picture shows Ji Boda's leg wrapped in gauze, and a beautiful selfie of herself. The text message says, "Fang Yuan, you treated me badly today. I like Xiang Feier's new bag." I sneered. Everyone knows that Fang Yuan, the eldest son of the Fang family, has loved Liu Ruyan for 10 years. Since she just transferred from elementary school, I have been chasing her and obeying her. I have everything she wants. After we got together, I dare not neglect her at all. I will buy her all the new bags of all brands without her telling me. But now thinking about it, it's more disgusting than eating shit. Until now, she hasn't asked me about her parents' recent situation. After having a smooth meal today, I was going to propose to her. I walked forward with my head down, but I didn't expect to bump into someone. I looked up and saw a female doctor. Although she was wearing a white coat, it couldn't hide her proud figure. The new couple looked at me with sparkling eyes. Then she smiled apologetically and quietly pulled the nurse next to her. "I'm sorry, Master Fang, I'm new here." When I saw the ambulance coming in, I panicked subconsciously, but I didn't lie on purpose. This voice sounded very familiar. After listening to her words, I recognized that she was the girl who notified me on the phone. Then the female doctor introduced herself to me. Her name was Bai Ningbing, and she happened to be the main doctor in charge of my parents. "You don't have to worry too much. Your parents just have some scratches and fractures, and there's nothing serious." I nodded and was about to leave, but I saw the nurse next to me, still trembling with fear. I stopped and pretended to be relaxed, not so scared, but don't make this mistake next time. Looking at the two of them, I was visibly relaxed, so I didn't delay any longer. But the next moment I was grabbed again, and I felt a delicate touch on my arm. Bai Ningbing smiled at me gently. "Fang Yuan, aren't you going to add the chief doctor's WeChat?" Somehow, I always feel that he is very familiar, but I can't figure out what makes me feel familiar. I nodded and added WeChat neatly. As soon as I added him, Liu Ruyan called me. I hung up, but the other party still wouldn't give in. I didn't indulge him, so I blocked him and sent him in. The forum in the school exploded. A good brother sent me a picture. The content of the picture was Ji-Boda and Lu Ruyan. Lu Ruyan leaned half of her body on Ji-Boda. The two had flushed faces and didn't look normal. Most of the comments below were mocking me openly or secretly. After all, the eldest son of a leading enterprise, Fang Yuan. After being someone's bootlicker for so many years, he still has nothing in the end. This is really funny. I opened my moments in Weibo, deleted all the photos and content about Lu Ruyan, and quickly made an official announcement that I am single, and no one is allowed to disturb me. After posting, I turned off my phone, got the takeout from online store, and delivered it. After a busy day, my parents fell asleep and I finally had time to breathe. Today was supposed to be the most beautiful day. I would take Lu Ruyan to meet my parents, have a good meal together, and then go shopping together to exchange feelings. Finally, I would propose to Lu Ruyan in front of them. All this is impossible now. From now on, the word Lu Ruyan and the person will completely disappear from my life. In the quiet ward, my phone rang at an inopportune time. The call was from an unfamiliar number. Afraid that my parents would be woken up, I quickly answered the phone and walked out of the room. A familiar voice was shouting. This person is Lu Ruyan, Fang Yuan. What do you mean? Why did you say that on Weibo and WeChat moments? Do you know that everyone is laughing at me now? I didn't say anything and the other side was still chattering, probably to the effect that as long as I apologized to him, bought him the latest bag, and re-announced it on WeChat moments and Weibo, he would let bygones be bygones and forgive me. I was about to smoke a cigarette, but suddenly remembered that this was a hospital. When he finally finished speaking, I chuckled. Lu Ruyan, you haven't asked me how my parents are until now. There was silence over there for a moment, and then he raised his voice and asked me, how are my aunt and uncle? You are so calm, you must be fine. I said the hospital would exaggerate. I don't want to explain anything more. Not far away, Bai Ningbing was holding the medical record walking towards me. My revengeful mentality was ignited in an instant. I said to the phone without hesitation, I have a new girlfriend, don't look for me in the future. After that, I clicked on the mute button and quickly asked Bai Ningbing to pretend for me. His expression was obviously a little dazed, but he nodded quickly. I turned off the mute button and could hear Lu Ruyan's sarcastic tone saying, it's impossible for me to fall in love with others. Hello, I am Fang Yuan's girlfriend. I still hope you won't call me again in the future. Bai Ningbing's voice was gentle and powerful. Somehow my restless heart calmed down. After he said these words, Lu Ruyan quickly hung up the phone. I looked at Bai Ningbing a little dazed, until he raised his hand and waved it in front of me. I suddenly woke up. Hello, my boyfriend. His voice was sweet and his smile was bright. I'm sorry that I got too emotional for a while, and used you as a cover. He slowly approached me, with a faint fragrance wafting from his body. Bai Ningbing's face was so close that I could seem to see her delicate hair clearly. My breathing gradually slowed down. Just as I was about to take a step back, he suddenly stepped back. It's okay, there's a long way to go in the future. After saying that, he was hurriedly called away by the nurse. For several days in a row I didn't go to school. I stayed with my parents to take care of the school. There was even a bet on the forum about when I, Fang Yuan, would humble myself and beg Lu Ruyan. I saw that Lu Ruyan had been suppressing it for 7 days, and the others followed her and suppressed it for 7 days. I smiled. On what basis did these people think that I would continue to be Lu Ruyan's licker? Without any hesitation, I added an option of never. I, Fang Yuan, would never have anything to do with Lu Ruyan again. The next moment the strange phone call came again, and I directly hang up. All the strange calls during this period were from Lu Ruyan, who found various ways to call. I counted the days and today was exactly the 7th day. Bai Ningbing came to check on my parents with the medical records as usual. The two elders looked at her and smiled from ear to ear. I suppressed my emotions and watched him gently check on the two elders. On the 3rd day after my parents were admitted to the hospital, I told them the news of our peaceful breakup. Although it was a bit sudden, they were businessmen after all. They were simply surprised and then accepted this fact. After the examination, Bai Ningbing was about to leave when the door of the ward was suddenly pushed open. Lu Ruyan ran towards me with large and small bags, smiling. After putting the things down, he easily took my arm and introduced himself to my parents again. Hello, uncle and aunt, I am Lu Ruyan. I'm so glad that you are all okay. The ward was silent. I quickly pulled my hand away and kept a distance. Lu Ruyan's face suddenly changed, but didn't go any further. Bai Ningbing just watched it all quietly. To my friend, I drew a clear line between the two and took the things in his hand and thanked him. My parents politely asked him to sit down. Bai Ningbing stood aside and didn't make any move to go out. Auntie Yuan and I said we wanted to come and see you, but I had something to do that day so I didn't come together. Yuan also said that we would be a family in the future anyway, and you wouldn't mind. He talked to himself and didn't notice that the two elders' faces were not right. It's strange to say, I would help him to make up for any lies he told in the past, but now I feel inexplicably disgusted. Lu Ruyan moved closer to my mother while talking, but he almost pressed the infusion needle. Fortunately, Bai Ningbing stopped him quickly. Don't make too much noise in the ward. His voice was cold, and the doctor's seriousness was revealed. I breathed a sigh of relief and was about to. I wanted to pull Lu Ruyan out to explain it clearly, but he suddenly stood up emotionally, pointing at Bai Ningbing and asked, Are you the one who called that day? Bai Ningbing didn't comment, but nodded with a faint smile. The next second, Lu Ruyan rushed up like a madman and was about to attack. I quickly stopped Bai Ningbing behind me, grabbed his hand and shook Lu Ruyan off. Don't go crazy here and we have broken up, I said loudly. I have never felt so firm. The person in front of me is so unbearable. Fang Yuan, don't regret it. Lu Ruyan's eyes were red, and tears were about to flow out of her eyes in the next second. He left these cruel words and turned away. The originally happy atmosphere in the ward was broken, and I walked out in silence. 2 days later, my parents were finally discharged from the hospital, and I found a special nanny to take care of them. After I felt relieved, I finally went back to school. The school's theory the forum was as lively as ever. Passing by the basketball court, I saw Jibota. I have to say that he has a good appearance, clean and handsome, can play basketball and talk. I was just about to go back to the teaching building, but a group of people suddenly started talking. Coincidentally, the protagonist of the discussion was me. I raised my head and looked carefully at the source, but I didn't expect Lu Ruyan to be wearing a revealing lesbian outfit and cheering for Jibota crazily. I suddenly remembered that I asked him to participate in my piano competition before, but he disdained it, not to mention wearing this and cheering so loudly. It was really not worth it. I lowered my head and pretended to look at my phone, quickened my pace and walked forward, but a pair of straight legs appeared in front of me. I didn't need to look to know it was Lu Ruyan. Fang Yuan, how long are you going to make trouble? I just want to laugh, get out of the way. I frowned, my heart was on the verge of exploding, and the surroundings were slowly. Many people gathered around, and many of them raised their phones to take pictures. I just wanted to leave quickly. Lu Ruyan likes to be a topic of conversation, but I don't like you. If you are really that angry, I will apologize to you. It was indeed an emergency that day. You don't know how fragile Jibota was when I arrived. Jibota was fragile, so if something happened to my parents, they would not be as good as an ordinary senior. I sneered and looked down at him. Lu Ruyan, I don't want to say too much. You should be able to feel that I don't like you anymore. Also, don't compare any cats and dogs to my parents. Don't you think about whether you are worthy? I spoke loudly and some people around me began to sigh. Lu Ruyan's face was pale, and her hand holding my wrist was shaking. I frowned and glanced at the clothes she was wearing, and looked away with some disgust. I didn't wear it on purpose. It was Jibota. He said that no one was cheering for him, and I came to help him because I was afraid that he would lose face. Don't get me wrong, his voice was full of anxiety, but his words were full of loopholes. Do you still think I am the fool I used to be? Jibota put down the basketball in his hand and walked over. I just looked at him quietly. In the past, he liked to ask Lu Ruyan for help with various reasons and various things, but anyone with a discerning eye could see that this kind of help was very deliberate. If there is something to say, why bully a girl? Jibota walked up, with a look of being so angry that he wanted to stand up for the injustice, which made me almost laugh. These two people are really a perfect match. The cell phone rang at an inopportune time. I opened it and found that it was the counselor who was about to leave, but the surroundings were already crowded. Lu Ruyan in front of me was still crying, looking like she was hurt. I was so anxious that I was ready to push through the crowd and run away. A familiar voice came from the radio, saying that the international superstar Daniel Wu has come to the school to film a movie, and is now at the East Gate. In an instant, most of the people who came to watch the excitement left. Lu Ruyan was crying uncontrollably, and leaned on Jibota. I turned my head away and didn't look at him. The counselor came to me to arrange a badminton match. As the president of the badminton club, I had to do it myself. My parents had just been discharged from the hospital, and I was busy running back and forth between home and school. There was an application form on the table to express my love for Ning Bing. When he appeared in front of me, I thought I had seen it wrong and asked him to help me sign up. His voice was still low and soft, and his face was smiling. Seeing that I was puzzled about his appearance, he began to explain that he had passed the school's exchange student application, and came here to send me the results of my parents' re-examination. I nodded and filled in his name. I also want to sign up. Lu Ruyan suddenly appeared from nowhere. He appeared, took the registration form and started to fill in his name. After filling it out, he looked at Bai Ningbing angrily. I knew he was possessive. In the past, I rejected all relationships with the opposite sex for him, and was always cold to outsiders, but there would always be someone by his side. I didn't care before, thinking that no matter what, I would always be the first, the most important person in his heart. I accompanied him for 10 years and tried my best to give him the best, but the result was ridiculous. My parents' lives are not as good as Jibota's leg. Thinking of this, the only remaining compassion disappeared. There would be no chance again. Lu Ruyan would never be possible. Lu Ruyan was holding a bottle of water in her hand. After signing up, he handed it to me as if to please me. I looked at it silently without answering. The screen of his mobile phone on the table lit up. I glanced at it casually. It was Jibota. The message was Ting Ting, have you arrived? The movie is about to start. I lowered my eyes to hide all my emotions. Lu Ruyan picked up the phone in a panic, and after making sure that I hadn't seen it just now, she spoke again. Yuan, the counselor has something to talk to me about. I'll come to you tomorrow. I don't know how many times he has used this poor excuse before. I raised my head and looked at him quietly. Lu Ruyan. No one wants their love to be shameful. After Lu Ruyan left, Bai Ningbing sat with me. The admissions officer took a leave of absence today, so I can only help here. But there are very few people who like to play badminton. In a sense, Bai Ningbing's registration was considered a help. The atmosphere fell silent. I didn't know what to say. Aren't you going to thank me? I turned my head and Bai Ningbing continued to speak. The legendary Daniel Wu saved you from the frying pan. I remembered that familiar voice in an instant. It turned out to be Bai Ningbing. I smiled and nodded. I said, "That's fine. Thank you." I was just about to be polite, but he replied quickly, "Can you accompany me to the riverside for a walk on the weekend? I haven't been back for a long time. I want to see if it's still the same as before." I was a little dazed by the river. That's where I fell in love with Liu Ruyan. I was still young at that time, but I was very naughty. My favorite thing was to play lion dance by the river. The first time I saw Liu Ruyan was by the river. She was wearing a tattered dress and her face was dirty. She told me that her family was always quarreling and she didn't have enough to eat. So that day I took the pocket money I saved and bought her a beautiful dress, and then went to a high-end restaurant for dinner. He ate voraciously, then squinted his eyes and said, "Thank you, brother, you are so nice." It was probably at this time that I decided to take care of him for the rest of his life. When he grows up, I want to take him to the riverside again. But he always sneered, "What's so good about it? It's just Zhang." Bai Ningbing waved his hand in front of me, pulling me out of my memories. "Is it okay?" He continued to ask me. This time I nodded. The badminton match was scheduled for Friday, and there were quite a few people coming that day. It seemed that the propaganda department had put in a lot of effort. The match was based on an elimination system, so some novices were easily eliminated. I originally thought that Bai Ningbing was a latecomer, but I didn't expect that his skills were not bad. He had a high ponytail, revealing his white collarbone, and every move was full of goddess meaning. The younger students had already started to make a fuss below, and soon only Liu Ruyan and Bai Ningbing were left in the women's group. I don't know how long Bai Ningbing studied to have today's skills, but I know how long Liu Ruyan studied, because his skills were taught by me. Hand in hand that day he found me and said he wanted to learn badminton. I asked him the reason, and he hesitantly said he was just interested. I didn't think too much about it, so I arranged a venue and began to teach him wholeheartedly. 3 days later, I saw him playing badminton with Jiboda on the playground. Then I understood why he wanted to learn badminton. I was angry at that time, but Liu Ruyan just frowned and blamed me for making a fuss. "It's just playing badminton with him. Why are you always so unreasonable? Can you stop being suspicious all the time? This really annoys me. If I had anything with him, there would have been problems long ago. How could it be until now?" Any more words were stuck in my throat. Liu Ruyan turned her head and looked at the group of people. The person who was trying to coax her frowned when he found out that the voices were not from him. I knew he was angry, because he had wanted to be the focus of the crowd since he was a child. I was a little worried about Bai Ningbing because a crazy Liu Ruyan was very difficult to deal with, but it turned out that I had thought too much. Bai Ningbing's skills were obviously much more professional than Liu Ruyan's. Perhaps other people could not see it very well, and only felt that the fight was going back and forth, but I have been trained in various skills since I was a child, and every step of Bai Ningbing's was the same as the professional training I had received. Sure enough, after a while Liu Ruyan began to feel a little weak, and suddenly her body tilted, and the whole person fell to the ground. She was holding her legs, screamed in pain, and the people around began to commotion. Bai Ningbing quickly ran to her side to check on the situation. I followed the crowd and ran to Bai Ningbing's side to watch her deal with it. She simply glanced at Liu Ruyan's injured leg, then dealt with it and breathed a sigh of relief. It was just a simple sprained foot, nothing serious. Liu Ruyan suddenly pushed Bai Ningbing away, with a look of anger on her face, and touched me separately. Jiboda took the opportunity to pick up Liu Ruyan and yelled at Bai Ningbing, "You are not a professional, why are you pretending? You will be responsible if anything goes wrong." His tone was full of disdain. Bai Ningbing was pushed to the ground by Liu Ruyan. I could no longer suppress the anger in my heart. After helping Bai Ningbing up, I looked at him coldly. Looking at Jiboda, it's not strange that he got injured in the competition with Liu Ruyan. Bai Ningbing is a doctor. If you don't believe what he said, you can go and see for yourself. And Liu Ruyan, don't let me see you hit Bai Ningbing again. From the time I entered school until today, I have never said anything harsh to other people. That's why those people dare to use my gossip as entertainment, but they may have forgotten that I have never been what kind of ordinary people. If they want someone, it is very easy to pay the price. Sure enough, Jiboda's face changed instantly, and he couldn't speak for a long time. He just hugged Liu Ruyan and walked to the infirmary. Liu Ruyan in his arms seemed to have recovered from the pain. She kept clamoring to get down and wanted me to carry her to the infirmary. I ignored her and just patted the dust off Bai Ningbing's back. "Are you okay? How do you feel?" After all, something went wrong in the competition I arranged. People helped me with good intentions, but they didn't know how to appreciate it. It has to be dealt with. Bai Ningbing shook her head to indicate that she was fine. Then she habitually held up the hair behind her ear. Then the faint birthmark caught my attention. I always felt that I had seen it somewhere, but I couldn't remember it no matter how hard I tried. A message from Jiboda came from my phone, saying that Liu Ruyan was clamoring for me to come over, and if I didn't, she would not apply the medicine. I frowned and thought about it, then replied neatly, "Let him die in pain." This time there was a problem in the game, and the mixed doubles behind was also pushed to the back. Bai Ningbing found me and said that no one would partner with him, so in order to thank him, I naturally had to agree. In order to practice tacit understanding, we booked a venue and practiced continuously, but I don't know why, every time I get close to him, I always have a familiar feeling. This feeling is hard to explain. When we were almost done practicing, I sat down side by side with him to rest. His hair was soaked with sweat and stuck to his skin. The birthmark behind his ear was once again revealed. I looked at him. I was fascinated by it until we got too close, then I came to my senses. Bai Ningbing seemed a little excited. and she took the initiative to lift her hair so that I could take a closer look. Look carefully at Fang Yuan. Look carefully at the flower behind my ear. I looked at the person in front of him in confusion, his eyes sparkling, a little too excited, but I still couldn't resist the temptation of familiarity, and began to examine it seriously, but I still couldn't remember anything. How about this flower? I frowned and shook my head. It was just a little familiar, but I couldn't say anything else. The brilliance of the person in front of me dimmed instantly, and when we finally parted, Bai Ningbing's condition was still a little off, but I didn't want to care too much. When Lu Ruyan had almost recovered, the date of the competition was brought forward. This time Lu Ruyan found Jiboda as her partner. There were many more people coming to the finals than before. After all, our love triangle was a good place for gossip. When the competition started, the benefits of Bai Ningbing and I having received professional training were revealed. It was ridiculously easy for us to beat Lu Ruyan and the others. In the end we had to win. When I walked out with Bai Ningbing, Lu Ruyan stopped me. His expression was a little helpless. Finally, he spoke as if he had made up his mind. Fang Yuan, I am willing to listen to everything you say in the future. I am here to confess to you again today. Are you willing to be with me? The people around me started to make a fuss again. Most people still think that I will still listen to Lu Ruyan. Are you done? I will take Bai Ningbing to dinner after I finish. You respect yourself. Lu Ruyan's expression was visible to the naked eye, from loss to anger, and finally she directly took Jiboda's hand in hand and walked away swaggeringly. I shook my head and felt more and more indifferent. After the game I can finally rest. Too many things have happened recently. It seems that a lot of things have changed in an instant, and a lot of things have been let go. My parents are busy with the company. I was also happy to have some free time. Except for Lu Ruyan on my phone, who changed her phone number from time to time and sent me messages, she has become even worse recently. I don't know how he convinced Jiboda, and even he began to plead for him. I finally agreed to meet Jiboda and have a good chat, but I repeatedly emphasized that if I saw Lu Ruyan I would turn around and leave. The place where Jiboda arranged to meet was a private room. It was very quiet, but it seemed that the price was not cheap. However, I vaguely remembered that his family seemed to be just an ordinary family. After I sat down I went straight to the point and said, "Tell me what you want to talk to me about." Jiboda poured the wine. He swallowed it in one gulp, then laughed helplessly. Lu Ruyan said he found he couldn't live without you, and begged me to explain to you. I looked at him with a smile. What to explain? Explain that he and I have nothing to do with each other, and everything is just a misunderstanding. He paused, then sighed, and continued to say that it was all my wishful thinking and had nothing to do with him. I frowned and looked at him. Although the person in front of me looked affectionate, I felt something was wrong. There was an indescribable weirdness. I'll say it one last time, Lu Ruyan and I will never be able to be together. And if you really like him, you shouldn't let him continue to be obsessed. It's disgusting. Yes, disgusting. This is all my thoughts about Lu Ruyan now. After 10 years of relationship, in the end I can only say one: disgusting. He is not worth it. Unfortunately, I only realized it now. Jiboda and I finally parted ways unhappily. On the way home, Bai Ningbing asked me to meet her by the river. It was dusk when I arrived. Bai Ningbing's long hair reached her waist and was blown slightly by the wind. She stood gracefully by the river. I walked over slowly and found that she didn't look very happy. Fang Yuan, in your memory, is Lu Ruyan the only one? I looked at him in confusion. He turned his head and I found that he was already in tears, his face full of tears. Fang Yuan, do you remember that you saved a little girl by this river? I looked at his face and felt familiar. Just as I was about to speak, the man in front of me suddenly jumped down. I was startled and immediately jumped down as well. The freezing cold river water reminded me of who Bai Ningbing was. The birthmark behind his ear was the mark of our meeting. When I was a child, I called him Little Ear. He lived next door to us. When I was a child, I always took him out to play. Once he was throwing a stone without paying attention to his feet and fell down himself. I jumped down to save him. The first thing he did when he woke up was to slap me, and then he hugged me and cried. I was confused at the time, but I just patted him on the back to reassure him. Later, his family was going abroad. Before leaving, he found me and asked me in a baby voice to look at his ears. He said there was a beautiful flower behind his ear, and I would recognize him by the flower in the future. When I was a child, I nodded and vowed that I would not forget him. When I grew up, I shook my head and had forgotten him behind me. Although it was summer, when I carried Bai Ningbing ashore, he was still shivering with cold. I took him home with a gloomy face. Along the way, he just looked at me expectantly and then repeated a sentence. Do you remember? I was so angry that I didn't answer. Until I arranged for him, I whispered, I remember. Little-eared Bai Ningbing was unspeakably happy. For a long while, but she started crying again. I patted his back quietly. Jiboda suddenly called and said that Lu Ruyan had cut her wrists. Not only me, but Bai Ningbing was also shocked. When we rushed to the hospital, we saw Lu Ruyan with a pale face. The doctor said that it was a good thing that she was sent to the hospital in time, otherwise she would be in great danger. Jiboda stood aside thinking about something. When he found out that I was looking at him, he immediately became worried. When Lu Ruyan woke up, I sat next to him. Yuan, I really know I was wrong. Can you please not be like this? His eyes began to moisten again. I looked at him without any ripples in my heart. My love used to be worthy of everything because I loved him, so I chose to tolerate him, but now I don't love him anymore. Suddenly I found that the person in front of me was not shining. Almost everything about him was my work, but he just took it for granted. Maybe I really loved that girl when I was a child, but after growing up, I slowly didn't recognize Liu Ruyan in front of me. Please forgive me this time, okay? I will be obedient in the future and let's be together well, okay? She said in a humble tone and kept begging me. I just looked at her quietly and finally shook my head. I don't love you. The more you do this, the more I hate you. This sentence seems to have hurt her a lot. She dropped the hand that was holding me and didn't stay any longer. I got up and left the ward. Little Ear's hair hadn't been blown dry yet. I was afraid that he would catch a cold. This was the only thought in my mind. When Bai Ningbing sat obediently in his seat and waited for me to blow his hair, I came to my senses. Something seemed to be wrong with me. How come this little ear looked more and more beautiful? Since we met, Bai Ningbing and I have become more and more familiar with each other. I don't know when we became inseparable, attending classes together, eating together and going out to play together. I got the happiness from him that I had never gotten before, so just like that, we let things take their course. We were together naturally. Later, I took her out to sea on a yacht. The stars in the sky were particularly bright at night. When we were infatuated, I asked him if he would regret it. His answer was firm and gentle. He said no, he would never regret it for the rest of his life. So we got together on a dark and windy night. Anyway, we had eaten everything. After we went back, we met each other's parents. We were originally a well-matched family, so communication was effortless. The engagement day was getting closer, and I was getting closer and closer to happiness. I wore a Bai Ningbing-style wedding dress and went to choose the restaurant myself. Everything was going well. But on that day, Liu Ruyan frantically banged on the door of my apartment, begging me to open the door. There was a thunderstorm outside. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore and opened the door to find that Liu Ruyan in front of me was no longer the same as before. Her hair was messy, her eyes were dark, and she was very thin. She looked no different from a ghost. Fang Yuan, it was obvious that we were supposed to be together. It was obvious that I had been with you for 10 years. How many decades could I give to others after 10 years? She cried breathlessly. Out of humanitarianism, I poured her a glass of water, then sat on the sofa and said calmly, Liu Ruyan, I have also loved you for 10 years, but you have never cherished me in these 10 years. You said you went shopping with your sisters, but it was actually because Ji Boda invited you to see at the concert. You took the money I gave you to take her out for food, drinks and entertainment. You said something happened at home and you needed money. I called you without saying a word, but in the end I found out that you had called all the money to Ji Boda. It was my birthday and I rejected everyone, just wanting to spend time with you. In the end, you left me waiting in the restaurant all night. Where were you that night and who were you with? Do I need to continue? I looked at him and said it word by word. In fact, there are many other things. In fact, many times I was not his first choice. It was just that I was stupid before and didn't want to believe it. Liu Ruyan stopped talking and just sat on the ground. Crying makes me upset. What should I do about the floor he soiled? Bai Ningbing will be angry again when she comes back soon. Do you have anything else to do? If not, go ahead. I still have to cook for Bai Ningbing. Liu Ruyan's body trembled. Before she left, she didn't forget to ask me for some money. I laughed for a long time, laughing that she had used the past 10 years to exchange for money. But after thinking about it, I was willing to spend money to buy quietness. Without much hesitation, I called her directly. I will remember the way Bai Ningbing came in her wedding dress for the rest of my life. She was so beautiful. I put the ring on her finger myself. Just when the ceremony was about to be completed, Liu Ruyan suddenly rushed in. She looked more beautiful than before. It was terrifying. He looked like a ghost and people frowned. Fang Yuan, give me money, otherwise I will not live, I will be beaten to death, give me money quickly. He was completely crazy. Bai Ningbing was a little scared. I hugged her gently and comforted her gently. Liu Ruyan's eyes were more vicious, as if she would rush over to kill us in the next second. The farce ended. The originally smooth engagement banquet turned out to be unlucky. Liu Ruyan was not a generous person. She had to pay the price. Ji Boda's face suddenly appeared in my mind at an inappropriate time. As expected, when all the information was placed in front of me, everything fell into place. The truth came out. Liu Ruyan became addicted to drugs, and all of this was designed by Ji Boda. Some time ago, Ji Boda had been asking Liu Ruyan for money. He was inexplicably doing some theology, and his purpose was to control my thoughts. I couldn't understand women's crazy thoughts. Liu Ruyan believed in such outrageous things at first, until Ji Boda took the opportunity to make him touch something he shouldn't touch. From that moment on, all the money on his card was transferred to Ji Boda's account. In addition, Ji Boda lied to him and said that if he invested with him, he would definitely make a lot of money. Liu Ruyan believed it, and this belief ruined her reputation. Looking at the pictures and the information, closing my eyes, Liu Ruyan no longer looked like the school beauty she used to be. She was just lying on the ground with wounds all over her body, barking like a dog to entertain her employer. He just became Ji Boda's money-making machine, from a money-delivering boy in the beginning to a money-making machine now. Ji Boda was very smart. He deliberately approached Liu Ruyan from the beginning, because he knew that I would give Liu Ruyan money, and what he had to do was to turn Liu Ruyan's money into his own. Obviously, he succeeded. The door was pushed open, and Bai Ningbing's face was solemn. Liu Ruyan was covered with wounds all over her body, and there was almost no good place. I knew she had always been soft-hearted. Seeing this scene, it must be uncomfortable. I walked over, hugged her gently and comforted her slowly, saying, "It's okay, I'll do it." He nodded and sighed. I looked at the information on the table and had begun to think about the specific plan. Liu Ruyan ran away secretly. If he couldn't make money, he would be beaten by Ji-Boda. And Ji-Boda hid it very well, and every time he beat him, he would avoid leaving any DNA fingerprints. He seemed to know that this matter would be announced to the world one day, so he made all preparations in advance. Once again, Ji-Boda and I sat in the private room. This time, the person in front of me was finally too lazy to pretend. He leaned lazily on his seat with a contemptuous tone. "What's wrong, Master Xiao? Why don't you have a good love talk with your young doctor and ask me out for something? Could it be that you have fallen in love with Liu Ruyan again?" There was so much sarcasm in his words. I smiled and shook my head. "Ji-Boda, do you really think you did it perfectly?" I stared into his eyes and saw fear in his eyes. I was afraid that he was afraid that I would find evidence to send him in. In fact, I was not sure at the beginning, but hard work paid off. I found the place where he first assaulted Liu Ruyan. Maybe he was not very skilled at it the first time, so the evidence he left was enough. I sent him to the Shijiang cabin. Do you still remember that the wine glass in his hand fell to the ground with his eyes wide open? "Big brother, look at me, Ji-Boda. You should never ever harm a powerless woman to make money for you. You really bring shame to men." The arrest went smoothly. Ji-Boda saw the irrefutable evidence and confessed the whole story. In court, Liu Ruyan was also present. After some treatment, he recovered a lot, but it was still affected. Ji-Boda admitted that he had bad intentions when he saw Liu Ruyan at the beginning, not because of love. All he had was just because he needed money, and the fastest way to make money was Liu Ruyan. Because I was generous to Liu Ruyan, it meant that Liu Ruyan was rich. He felt that his appearance was not good enough. The wrong person, it is easy to hook up with Liu Ruyan, but the fact is indeed so. Liu Ruyan believed it and believed it without a doubt. Bai Ningbing beside me quietly held my hand. Ji-Boda was talking and suddenly turned his head to look at Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan was startled and didn't dare to look at him. Ji-Boda went on to say that you are completely finished. I deliberately went to the hospital to get a plaster cast that day. In fact, I was fine. I just needed money. But who knew that you were so useless that you couldn't even hold a square circle? I forced myself to resist the urge to rush up and beat him. This kind of scumbag really doesn't deserve to live in this world. Liu Ruyan went from being unbelievable at the beginning to collapsing. From collapse to madness until finally he just calmed down, and then walked to me with tears silently. I looked up and looked at him and saw his turbid eyes full of tears. "I'm sorry, Fang Yuan, it's my own fault for not cherishing you. I once had the best love and the best person, but I didn't cherish them. I always felt that all this was taken for granted, and it was only natural that you liked me." He choked more and more, and tears as big as beans kept falling. "But I forgot that no one is so good to me as a matter of course, and I missed you because of this scumbag. I deserved it. It was my retribution, Fang Yuan. I regret it. I really regret it." Liu Ruyan burst into tears. His frail body knelt on the ground, and I just watched quietly. Suddenly something was released in my heart. I have loved this woman for 10 years, but she didn't cherish me. I know I blame her, but seeing her like this, I suddenly thought, forget it. Besides, I already have little ears around me. Bai Ningbing silently held my hand tightly. I was a little amused and held her hand in return. Ji-Boda was finally sentenced to death. And finally only her father came to see her. The old man was old. When he came, he took out a card and then spoke to her in a rural accent. The judge said, "I have money. My baby said that money can do a lot of things. My baby has made a mistake. I will give you money. You give my baby back to me, okay?" He cried, waving the tattered card in his hand. Ji-Boda, no longer fearless, just kept looking at the old man and crying, "Dad, don't be like this. I am sorry for you. I closed my eyes. Don't want to see it anymore." Bai Ningbing and I got married smoothly. It has been a year later. Xiao Erdwa looks really beautiful in a wedding dress. He and I often run back and forth. His parents are abroad, and these two in my family are in China. We discussed later we plan to bring his parents back together. After all, there is no place like home. Ji-Boda was still sentenced to death, and Liu Ruyan went abroad. It's just that every time it's my birthday, my phone will always receive a birthday blessing at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, and this kind of blessing has never stopped. There is one more thing. Our little ear belly really needs a little ear. I have always sent someone to take care of Ji-Boda's father. After all, they have depended on each other since childhood. Ji-Boda died, and the basic life of the old man became a problem. Little ear became big ear, and a girl was born in the belly. This time the whole family is happy. The end.